Ta-da! All right, now we're ready to be called to order.
All right, welcome to the Natomas Charter School Board of Directors meeting for December 12th. I will call us to order at 5:34. Roll call. Doug Gaffney.
Here.
Nita Kushal.
He is absent today.
Sean King.
On his way.
Gina Lee.
Here.
Dr. Maria Maharalo. Here. Preeti Merchant.
Here.
Jennifer Morgan, I'm here. Ashante Norton.
Is absent.
All right, student liaisons, Diego.
Here.
Tanvi.
Here.
Lillian.
Here.
And Keith.
Here.
All right. Let's see. We're going to action item C first.
Correct, you have to do the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Action item, approve resolution 2022.01, a resolution making certain findings necessary to permit virtual board meeting pursuant to AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953E. May I have a motion?
I move.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call vote. Doug?
Yeah.
Gina?
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. All right,
Okay.
let's see. Hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda.
Heidi, did you receive any comments?
did not.
Okay, great. All right, at this point, we will adjourn to closed session to consider and or take action upon any of the following public employees' performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54954.2. Adjourning at 5:36.
They're here to give their student reports
Afterwards?
at 6:15.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys are just here early.
Yeah.
So for future meetings, you can probably wait and come at 6:15, just FYI. So I know some of you come with parents.
They usually here for roll call.
Yeah. We can catch them up at 6:15.
I love that.
So.
Because now we're just gonna go eat dinner somewhere.
Could you bring some back?
But not outside. No, like in a room.
I'll reconnect with Ziba when
Okay.
she gets back. So I can
Perfect.
make that adjustment. Okay.
So the others can stay and do
Yep.
homework or something?
Yep, you guys can stay and work on homework, get ready for finals.
If anyone needs to eat, I'll take you in the staff lounge because it's too cold to eat outside.
Yep, that's true. You can go with Miss Carter and have food in the staff lounge.
We just all hang out.
All right, we're gonna go to the.
Work for Mrs. Schwab. You'll put them to work. I had a long sleep. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Let me go print that thing. While you go. Anita, I'm just gonna go print something real quick. Oh, sure, yeah, I'll be here. breaking the sweat. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, I will reconvene open session at 6:19. Action taken during our closed session, we established the Executive Director Evaluation Committee. 4 members of the board, Doug Gaffney, Dr. Mangarado, Gina Lee, Sean King, and our alternate is Preeti Merchant, should we need a backup. All right. Ooh, fun stuff, recognitions and celebrations.
We only have one family here just yet.
Okay, so what does that mean? Do you
So
wanna-
I don't know if we could can we go out of order at all? No?
Can we?
I'm still.
Yeah, we can do our student update, yeah.
Okay, let's do our student updates first if we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, so we will reorder the agenda. We're gonna go with the student update. And then we'll do recognitions and celebrations. Who's up? Diego?
So, I again.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, if you click on Early College Academy ID, it should take you to this update. One moment, Diego. We'll do it shortly.
There it is.
Yay! All right, here you go.
Okay. So for the month of November, ECA Link Crew has been doing push-ins into the freshman class, their study skills class. And in these push-ins, we do activities where they kind of learn about studying tips for finals, since it was really close to finals. Like an example was we had them pair up and only have one hand out, the other one's behind their back, and they had to make a paper airplane together. And it taught them to rely on their peers.
that's cool.
And then we had our Friendsgiving event, from November 14th to the 18th. Thankful letters, there was thankful letters to other students. We made a little mailbox and they could deliver anonymous letters to each other saying how thankful they were. And there was a board where they could make a little drawing and say what they were thankful for. And there was a lunch event on the Wednesday of that week where they just, like a small potluck type thing, people can bring desserts and they can share. Then we had our 9th grade social after school event. There was games and activities for 9th graders to participate in. People brought their Nintendo Switches to play Mario Kart or other things like Twister. Then they had everyone had Thanksgiving break from November 21st to 25th. Then it's not on there, but this week is finals week for ECA, and the schedules are different. There's only school Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then it's the last week of school before winter break. So,
All right, thank you, Diego. Who's next? Tammy for Leading Edge.
All right, hi everyone. I hope you all had a very good November and Thanksgiving break, Thanksgiving. But it's time for Leading Edge's Academy. For school culture, we had our Mummy's Tomb back, which has been a Leading Edge tradition for a very long time. It was held on November 9th, and over 250 sixth grade families came over to participate in this interactive program. Students were in charge of running most of the things, such as stage shows, Leading Edge tour groups, and making prop scenes. It featured 5 performance areas with student comedians, mummification scenes, and mummy dancers. Art Club helped set up and running the snack bar. Tycho held a performance for families waiting to go on the tour. All in all, it was a wonderful night, and if you follow Leading Edge's Twitter page, you can find pics from Mummy's Tomb and other events as well. For recent events, we had a Thanksgiving break, which was a fun and relaxing time to recharge. We also had a winter dance on December 2nd with food, competitions, games, fog, and fun. The theme was Mystic Forest. It was our first formal dance of the year, and Along with that, the sixth grade basketball season is also coming to an end. Sixth graders have done amazing, and our snack bar is also very amazing and tasty. I hope you can go and try it out. We have also been progressing in our academics. We have Monday SEL check-ins to just check in with ourselves and so that our students can reach out for any support that they need. You can check, we had our learning labs as electives, as I mentioned last time. And the SPCA Learning Lab went on a field trip to the animal shelter and met their dog friends. You can check out the pictures on our Twitter page as well. We had our second iReady diagnostics. Students have shown academic growth, and we are really proud of them. Everyone at Leading Edge learns and grows and pursues success. This is all from this month's board report. Are there any questions? And I wish you happy holidays and New Year. See you next year.
Okay, Key with the PFAA update.
Hi again, board. Good evening. I hope you guys are having a good evening so far. So this is what happened in the month of November and partially December. So we're coming back from break and we're gonna go to break again, but first finals week, so I have to get through that. So Night of the Kings happened on November 17th. So congratulations to all the students who performed during the halftime show and also vocal ensemble who performed the national anthem. They did a really great job. Link Crew held a freshman social on November 18th. And so this was a chance for the freshmen to spend time with their Link Crew leaders again and watch the basketball tournament. Watch the basketball tournament that was hosted for a senior project. The basketball tournament was really cool. There was like a seniors versus staff portion, so that was really cool seeing everyone get competitive with each other. Our upcoming production of Something Rotten had auditions. That's happened before break, and the callbacks list was released on November 28th. And so callbacks happened on December 1st, and the cast list was released on December 3rd, and they will start rehearsals this Friday before break. So congratulations to the upcoming cast, and we can't wait to see an amazing production coming up in the spring. And the music department started their SNAP fundraiser for their upcoming Disneyland trip. So we've been getting a lot of updates from them lately. Our orchestra and symphonic band performed at the ARC concert on November 30th. For the vocal department, the winter vocal concert called Silver and Gold happened on December 1st and 2nd in the Benvenuti. The classes performed some holiday classics, jazz standards, and other popular songs. So great job, and congratulations to Mr. Crossan and to all the students performed and teched for an amazing show. Vocal ensemble and advanced jazz band had upcoming performances at the Sac State Jazz Festival. And they did a really great job, and they seem to have a lot of fun there. Orchestra also held their holiday awesome lunch on December 7th outside the music wing. And here our Rotary Club also had their annual canned food drive happening at the same time. So people, their canned food drive was kind of like a competitive competition. So it was just to see who can donate the most. And it was a really nice way to raise, it was a really good way to get that for what they were donating to. And let's see, ASB also held our very first Winter Wonderland Awesome Lunch on December 9th out in the amphitheater. And so we had several featured student performances. We also had our pop culture dance club. So this was like the first time we actually got to have dance performances happen at our Awesome Lunch. And we also had like student bands, and it was just a really, really fun time. And we also gave out free hot chocolate. And lastly, ASB's yearly week of giving and change wars happened from December 12th. I wrote the wrong date. This happened last week from the 5th to the 9th. So this was a chance for the student body to raise money for the Wellsprings Women Center, and in a very fun and competitive way. So a little bit more on what Change Wars was. It was just basically we had jugs out, and kids had to go ahead and put coins in their own to raise their points and put dollar bills in other containers to decrease their points. And so it got really competitive and congratulations to the seniors again, I guess, for winning that competition. But that concludes my report and thank you. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions. Is that okay?
Of course.
Yes. The Rotary Club, so PFAA has a student Rotary Club or is it the community Rotary Club?
Oh, it's our own. It's
Your
our
own.
student.
And so when you collect the cans, like where do you distribute them to or how does that work?
I'm not too sure like where like they donated the cans to.
I think the ones for Rotary Club went to Joey's food box.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And so PFA has it's what's called an Interact Club, which fits into the Worldwide Rotary Club.
Oh,
And we're sponsored by the Thomas Rotary Club. And they sponsor our Interact Club.
cool. And my second question is I had not heard of the Wellspring Women's Club Women's Center. Wellspring Women's Center. Does anybody tell me about that?
So
I'm not too sure.
Wellspring is a part of WE,
Oh, okay.
as well
okay.
as other supportive services that are provided in Sacramento for women who are escaping a violent environment or living in homeless conditions.
Okay, so it's connected with V's then? Okay, cool, I had not heard.
Well, Wellspring is its own thing.
It's its own
but
thing,
It's
yeah.
in the same thing.
I have a quick question. Well, it's more of a comment. Our ASB members are very humble. And I wanted to shout out as the principal, like what an amazing job they did this year. What Key didn't mention was they actually raised over $2,400 for Wellspring, which triples anything we've ever given in the same kind of period. So the ASB officers need just kind of a bit of praise.
Wellspring is in the Norfolk Park. They also have a health center there and drop-in support services for women who are in need is the primary focus, although it is available to others.
Okay, cool, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Lillian Carter. They're past it.
Since our November board meeting, PAC families have been working on finishing the semester strong. On November 30th, Ms. Carter hosted her monthly coffee talk. This month's topic was developing schedules and routines for homeschooling. On December 2nd, we hosted our first parent win, What I Need session. This was an opportunity for parents to attend educational training in the areas of academics, behavior, and social emotional skills. We also have had 2 field trips this month. On December 2nd, we went to the California Museum, and on December 9th, families explored Sequest in Folsom. Kids got a chance to feed squid to fish. And we're all looking forward to winter break.
Thank you. All right, we can do the recognitions and celebrations now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Ready for us, Lynn?
Yes.
Right, okay. So, this is very exciting that we get to take a moment in our board meeting to stand like this, not with my back to the camera, that where we can have a time to take time to really recognize the hard work and learning of our students here at Natomas Charter School. So as many of you know, when students are bilingual, they have more than one language that they speak at home outside of English, then they are, the state has a system where we ensure that they are fully fluent in English. And so when they are able to show that through an LPAC test, through their state testing, through their grades, their teachers, all of those things go into what we call a reclassification as English proficient. And really, that language doesn't do it justice, because what it's saying is we have a bilingual student, right? An emergent bilingual student. So working towards that bilingual status. And then that means that the next step is when they're seniors, testing in their home language, and then they can get the seal of biliteracy. And it could be more than bi, because some of our kids know more than just 2 languages. They might know 4 or 5. And so you can get that seal on their diploma once they're seniors. So this is a really exciting first step for a bunch of our students. And so we have about 20 students that have earned this, but we've got a few that are here. We came out in the cold night. I know everybody just wanted to hunker down. I'm sure by you got home at the end of the day. So what I'd like to do is, students, when I read your name, go ahead and come up here and I'll give you your certificate and then we'll all wait until everybody's up here and then we'll take a picture, okay?
Oh, so yeah.
Yes, I was gonna say, yeah, Jen, come on up.
Why don't you go down here and then we'll stand over.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay.
You want to move back to the camera?
No,
You're fine, you're fine, you're fine.
All right, so our first one we have is David Bernardino Beltran. Can you get out? Yes. This is good practice for graduation. Long walk, right? Okay, give your parents more time to be proud. So there you go. So go ahead on over here. Yay.
Yeah, we'll stand here, we'll take a group photo.
All right, the next student we have is Sam Tavares. Come on, Sam. Congratulations. Our next student we have is Isadora Law. Come on, Gabby. Go, my dear, congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, perfect, right there. Our next student is Nora Jabur. Come on.
Congratulations.
You have to shake hands with the dignitaries when you get recognized. It's part of the thing, right? All right, our next student is Alex Go. Come on down. Go ahead, you have to shake people's hands because you're important now.
Congratulations. Congratulations, you stay right there.
All right, our next student is Xander Piacino. Congratulations. Go ahead over for your handshake.
Congratulations.
All right, and our last student that we have here in attendance tonight is Samantha Hurtado. All right. So
All
let's
right, we
see.
do a group photo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Let's
get
squeeze
a,
together.
good right there. You want to turn your certificate around there, Ben?
Yeah, put your certificate
Oh, yeah.
out.
There you go.
Perfect,
Okay.
All right. Good job, guys.
Okay, everybody look right here, ready? 1, 2, 3, happy. All right.
Happy, I know, that's what I wanted to say too.
All right.
Lots of cameras. All right, okay.
All right, congratulations.
Oh, I'm just grabbing the other one.
In case they were walking as I was doing it.
All right, congratulations, everyone. At this moment, you guys have finals, right? So you want to stay, right? Finals is part of it, you don't want to stay. I get it. You don't want to hear about the hockey? Look, there's this really big financial statement. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are more than welcome to stay, but we completely understand if you'd like to depart. The rest of you, see you
Thank
next
you
year.
as well. Thank you, families, for
Good luck on your
coming.
test. Thank you all.
Either door works.
Good night, thank you for coming. Congratulations. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Good night, thank you, thank you.
I love that.
All right. Next up, hearing of the public for items not on the agenda.
There was nothing.
Okay, perfect. And hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
None?
Excellent. All right, so moving along, tonight's agenda. Comments, questions, changes?
Yes,
Yes?
yes. I'd like to have some time to ask some questions about the employee handbook.
Okay, all right, awesome.
So we should make a motion then to move employee handbook to an action item.
So I move that we move the employee handbook to an action item, or just to discuss, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, by moving it to, because as a consent item, we would normally have a discussion
Right,
about it.
right.
But you can make a motion to move it as an action item, and then it can be the first action item.
Okay, may I have a motion to move revised employee handbook discussion to an action item?
I assume so move.
Thank you, might have a second?
second.
Okay, whatever she said. Roll call vote. Doug,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gina, Maria,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. All right, let's start with that. Oh, I'm
So
sorry,
then
no,
you should have
we gotta go
now,
to personnel
now
changes.
approve the agenda.
And
Oh, I guess that was your motion, was to approve the agenda with the modification of putting the employee handbook as an
Okay,
action
so
item.
we'll revise that.
We can just revise it in a minute.
Okay, so we don't need to go through, all right, cool, all right. Consent items, personnel changes, November 14th board meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who.
Gina with the, and Doug with the second. Roll call vote, Jennifer, I'm a yes. Preeti?
Sorry, I couldn't mute. Yes.
Okay. Dr. Meharado?
Yes.
Gina?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving along, our first action item, the handbook.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had a chance to take a look at it, and so I just have some questions that
Sure.
just kind of stood out to me, and I thought if it's helpful, you know, if it's not, just disregard it. But I'm gonna start from the page 79. Page 79, number 3, and number 27. And I don't have it, let's see, where it is here. Yeah, page 79.
Page 79
Page
of
79, no,
employee
yeah.
handbook.
What was the page number?
79,
79.
Is
is it in here? Oh, it's in here. Okay.
Is it 79?
Page 79 in the, on
on the board
on the
packet?
board packet, yes.
So discipline and termination of employment, is that the right page?
I'm not sure, but page 79, let me get on that. Okay. I see, rules of conduct, yeah, rules of, yeah,
Rules of
I
conduct?
think
Okay.
so, yeah. Yeah, because I'm kind of starting backwards and then I'll move forward, because I thought that would be, let me see, it was, let me get to my page 7.
Joe, do you know the number that's actually in the handbook?
So it's page 79 of the board packet, which is
Yeah.
page 57
Oh,
of the handbook.
is it? Oh, okay, thank you,
Yeah, there's two
okay.
page numbers.
Very good, thank you,
So
all
it's
right.
page 57.
Yes.
Of
The actual document.
It's actually page 79 in the actual packet.
Oh, okay. And 59 in the handbook.
57.
57 of the handbook, 79 of the packet.
Okay, so if I'm scrolling through here, I'm looking for 79?
In the middle, yeah,
Yes,
bottom middle, 79.
I'm sorry. Well, my question there is, number 3 says, talks about unprofessional conduct,
Mhm.
right? And there's nothing written. Then I go to page 80, which, I don't know, number 27.
Unprofessional.
Yeah, and so I wonder what is the difference there between number 3, unprofessional conduct, because there's no explanation of that, which is understandable, versus unprofessionalism on page 80, number 27.
So my response to that would be, excuse see if we're able to find it. Kind of twofold. So
Yes,
typically
yes.
unprofessional conduct are specific incidents, that's what I'm looking for. Whereas unprofessionalism sort of ongoing behavior that we might have. But anything that would qualify for discipline and termination of employment, I'm having trouble talking today. Is something that we actually will speak through with our legal counsel first. And then the legal counsel will actually help us sort of understand, given the circumstances and the context of what's going on, where it might qualify within these different
Between
items.
these two items. Okay, so number 3, you said again,
It's typically a specific
a
incident,
specific incident. Okay.
whereas unprofessionalism might be ongoing
On,
behavior.
got it, okay, very good, because that was the question I had. And let's see, on that same page,
Mhm.
under termination, a minimum of 2-week notice whenever possible. Let's see, where is it here?
So you're talking about in the paragraph that's termination of employment. So should it become necessary for employee to terminate his or her employment with NCS, the employee should notify
I
his
guess it follows.
supervisor?
Yeah.
Okay, so at least 2 weeks' notice is expected whenever possible.
Right. And when I read that, I then had, after I saw that, which is, when I saw the letter that all employees sign when they come on board.
Which is the acknowledgement.
The general acknowledgement, appendix C, general acknowledgement. The last line of that general acknowledgement says, I agree that this acknowledgement supersedes all previous agreements, whether written or oral, expressed or implied, related to the subjects covered in this acknowledgement. So I thought, okay, see, again, it's just a question, is this general acknowledgement letter seems to supersede what you have written in what's in the handbook. I guess that's my question.
Right.
But then again, I don't know the particulars, but that struck me as,
Whenever we revise the handbook, this is an attachment that we will send it out to all employees,
Right.
letting them know of the change. And so they will sign this again, acknowledging that they've read the revised handbook.
right,
So
right. So I don't know, and again, maybe it's just me, but when I read that this acknowledgement that they're signing supersedes whatever's in the handbook.
It actually doesn't. So
Okay,
what-
good, okay,
what
that's what
C-
good.
What appendix C, the general acknowledgement
Uh-huh.
is it's the form that people fill out to say, I have read the handbook.
I read it, okay.
And so what
okay.
that statement at the bottom is
Okay.
referring to is, let's say you got hired here, a year ago and you read that handbook and you
Right.
signed it. This is the new handbook, and now
okay,
by
so
signing
supersedes
this,
this
you
handbook.
acknowledge that
Right.
this,
Maybe we
supersedes.
changes every
Okay.
year when we bring it to the board.
And I wondered if we need to add that, because if somebody like me would go, oh, wait a minute,
well, that's really the language of all previous agreements.
Okay,
Because
okay.
it could have been an employee handbook, maybe it's something.
Another document.
Another document,
Yeah,
like
okay.
a salary agreement or something like that.
Okay,
that
there
they
is it.
sign.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, it's intentionally broad there
Yeah.
because for employment purposes, our policy, if you will, is the employee handbook.
Okay.
So we have
Okay.
board policies,
Right.
which you guys have approved for a myriad of different topics. Then we have student handbooks, which are really our policies around student rules, behaviors, and expectation. And then we have an employee handbook, which is really our policies around employee behaviors and
Very good.
expectations.
So that's what that means. Good, okay, that helps.
And this is a mid-year change, so the employees got one at the beginning of the year, they're gonna get another one.
That they're gonna need to sign. Okay.
What happens if they don't sign?
They all sign.
Yeah, yeah.
They want a job.
You're signing an acknowledgement. It's basically saying, I received the handbook and I acknowledge that I have received the handbook. That's, the real intention there, but like at least, Anita was saying, typically, that's not been a problem in the past. But,
Right, we'll usually highlight the changes that are in there so that they know what it is and follow up on that.
Okay, yeah, because to that point, and I don't want to belabor it,
Yeah.
but it does say that, I agree that this acknowledgement contains a full complete statement of agreements and understand that is expressed or implied. So I'm thinking if I don't sign it, then I'm under the old handbook.
yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
not just an acknowledgement that I read it, right?
Uh-huh.
It's an acknowledgement that I agree it's changed.
that
Oh,
the
right.
handbooks have changed.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
it
I
would,
understand what you're trying.
yeah, Yeah, I guess if I understand your question. I think if we had an employee who refused to sign it, I would want to understand more about why they were refusing to sign it. Because then that might kind of help us figure out, what the next steps are.
Okay, yeah.
Because it kind of, it sort of depends if it's, I don't think I should have to do these things, then that might be a different conversation than I don't agree with this one particular statement, and, let's talk through that a little bit. We are an at-will employer, but I always remind people that we're not an at-whim employer either, so we try to, if someone, doesn't understand something or struggling with something, we try to take time to understand, their perspective and see if there are adjustments we need to make.
Because these are our HR policies in this one.
Right. I do have one last question. About, and I think, well, first of all, I thought it was great that you have a particular policy for victims of abuse leave. That was, I thought that was great in terms of including that. And so then after that section, it's returning from leave of absence on page 77 of the board packet, returning from leave of absence. And it's, again, it's just a question about the first, second, third, fourth line. It says, an employee should give his or her supervisor 30 days notice before returning from leave. And I thought if they wanted to return before, I don't know, I just wondered about that. Maybe you could.
So there's multiple different leave of absence.
Okay, thank you, okay.
And so most of them do fall within some type of a medical or certified
Right,
leave.
right.
So all of that documentation usually meets that 30-day requirement to say, or they're doing progress reports, the doctor saying,
Right,
okay, they're gonna be
right.
out for this time and they're out for that time. So, and the ones that don't fall within the medical leaves and stuff are basically up to the discretion of the school for an unpaid, like a sabbatical or
Right,
something like that.
right.
And so that's usually agreed upon with the executive director prior to it even being approved for them to return and go back.
Also, it's approved before, and that's somewhere in there that I didn't catch, but to come back, then they have to give, is it a minimum of 30-day notice?
Yeah, we'll work with
Yeah,
them, but
okay.
there's substitutes involved,
I
long-term
see,
subs and
okay.
things like that.
And so a little context on this handbook. So our handbook actually comes from our legal counsel, Young Green Court. There are things in this handbook that are not necessarily challenges that Natomas Charter School has experienced, but they have experience with other clients. And so they'll put the language in as recommended language. So this has not been an issue that Natomas Charter School has necessarily navigated, but let's say we have an employee who went and said, I'm gonna take a year off of unpaid leave, and we agree to that. We would want to know that they are gonna return with some time, because suddenly then we might be, trying to figure out what to do with a temporary employee that we've hired for a year or whatever that might be. So, the idea is that, that we wanna know within 30 days when their return date is going to be. Typically, though, the way we handle that is by speaking to the employee before they go out, right? I'm having a baby and I'm planning on coming back on this date and that sort of thing. And so that's typically the way that we handle it, but it's to make sure that we have coordinated appropriate resources to support students while that employee is out on an absence, but then also making sure from a fiduciary standpoint that we have been able to staff the position appropriately, but aren't finding ourselves in a position of having overstaffed the position.
Right. So, and I guess that's why you have reemployment cannot always be guaranteed.
Correct, and it depends on the leave,
Okay.
some types of leave are federally protected leave, other types of leave are, someone choosing to go on a sabbatical, that's more within our own policies at Natomas Charter School that we're choosing to let someone do that.
Well, good, that's helpful, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, yeah.
So then we will need the board to approve this as a separate item, and so you'd have to make a motion to approve the employee handbook and then have a second and a roll call vote.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the employee handbook?
I'm so, okay, second?
I'll second. This is Preeti.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, Doug,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Gina,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. All right, next item, the governance handbook.
Well, we're on the topic of handbooks. Last month when we met, Walt joined us virtually and you guys went through the board governance handbook. We had some very minor revisions in that. So the new governance handbook is your handbook to approve. Basically, it'll be your governance protocols for the next year.
Okay, great. May I have a motion to approve the 2022-23 governance handbook? Gina, thank you. Sean, may I have the second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Sean. Roll call vote, Sean?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Weren't you really good? Gina? Yes. Maria?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, the financial audit report for 21-22.
Anita, you're gonna have to present because they can't switch over because you just emailed and they can't do a switch. So,
Can I connect to that or,
So what's the issue?
it's basically,
because how Lisa has it right now, she couldn't switch over to get the new one. Anita just emailed her. It's okay to text me, see if she can present.
well, and as long
No.
as the board doesn't mind, on the second page of the slide, it had the prior audit fiscal year, so I just made a minor change.
One moment, let us.
So it's, if she can email it to me and then I'll present it from there. I'll just join the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just email it to me. And then I will. Join the Zoom. Oh, this is how Okay. Ms. Hall, I'm joining the Zoom.
She got it.
She got it?
Yeah.
Okay, she was able to do it. Okay.
Okay.
Anita, is that the one?
Yes.
Well, see, it was the second slide. Yeah, go ahead and present that on there.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Oh, wait, no, actually, that was the old one, but anyway, so
It'll work.
this is the 2021-22 audit, okay? On there. So Clifton, Larson, Allen, they are our auditors. This is we've used them for several years, but this is the first year for the 21-22 where they rotate partners. So we were working with a whole new team this past year. They used to come out in person, but since COVID, they just love doing things virtually and stuff. So spring review is in April of 2022. And then we did our final closeout in October of 2022. And so our audit is based on the Financial Accounting Standards Board or FASB format. And our general ledger, because we are on the County Office of Education's finance system and within Natomas Unified School District, we follow the GASB format, which is the the Governmental Accounting Standard Board. So our audit has a reconciliation between the two so that everyone can understand our financial statements. So next slide, please. So with this, so not only did I have like a new staff this year that was pretty much pulling documents for things that they didn't even know about because they weren't here the prior year, and a new audit team and stuff too. The auditors experienced some backlogs. So for the first time in the board packet, the document that's in there is the draft version. Prior to coming to this board meeting, they had emailed and said that it made their review. There's nothing that's going to change on here. And they're going to be using a report date in the document of December 12th, 2022. So I will email that out to you or the official date. So you'll see the report dates on there as well. But going through this handout, just kind of walking over this audit report and stuff too. Now for the actual audit report itself, I wanted to direct your attention to the statement of financial position, which basically is our balance sheet. And it shows, it's page 4 of the actual audit report. And that shows that our total assets are over 36 million on there. And so that will show your total assets, total liability, and what our fund balance is. statement of activities is kind of like an income statement or profit loss statement if you're comparing it to private industry. And that shows our total net assets, which would be like total net income of 32 million, and that's on page 5. And they separated out with donor restricted money versus without restricted money. And this is based on non-profit status reporting, the FASB reporting on it. Now, statement of cash flows is basically just a cash flow in this format. And page 7 is showing that our cash and cash equivalents is over 18 million. Then if you could go to the next slide, please, for the compliance statements. I'd just like to point out a few interesting things that might be of importance to you. On page 17 of the audit report, we have our schedule of instructional time, and then also our schedule of average daily attendance on page 18. So they are really confirming that we are meeting our instructional time as well as our attendance. Prior to this fiscal year, we were in COVID and they kind of suspended that. So now it's back in the audit report. Also, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance. That's page 20, and that really is our general ledger balances that meet our basically they match our financial statements, the unaudited actuals that we have brought to the board for approval back in September. And then on page 19, the previous page, is that reconciliation statement between the financial accounting standards and the governmental accounting standards on there. And so that's where you'll see that they're taking our fund balance and they're pretty much adding in our fixed assets, long-term fixed assets, cash equivalents, things like that, to come up to the 32 million for our balance sheet. Next slide, please. And then also for your reading enjoyment on here, pages 24 and 25, you can read the auditor's internal control report. Then we also have reports on federal compliance, state compliance, and then also what people are most interested in is the schedule of findings and question costs, which you can find on page 29 and 30. Next slide. So a summary of the results on all of this is basically page 1 is the auditor's opinion, which in their opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial opinion of the school as of June 30th, 2022, and changes in its net assets and its cash flows for the year ended in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So that's pretty much as good as it gets. I'm happy to report on page 29, there were no audit findings, and page 30 shows no audit findings the prior year that they had to follow up with. And I want to thank teaching and learning staff and basically all NCS staff, how they worked hard to document all that we needed for that short-term independent study. We continued to do that and recover a lot of absences that we experienced last year. And then also a special thank you to my Business Alpha staff too. They're real troopers on trying to figure out and pull documents that they didn't even work on before. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions from the board?
And then Anita, will you be sending the board the final copy?
Yes, they're expecting for us to get it in a day or two. So once they said that we cleared their internal review, they sent me the management representation letter and I sent that off to them with today's date. So that will be the date that's being put on the official packet. And they'll be transmitting our audit to the state controller's office by December 15th is the deadline for all schools. And we just need to report back to our county office that our board has approved the audit, which you did tonight, prior to the end of January.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right, may I have a motion to approve 2021-22 financial audit report?
I so move.
Thank you, Maria. May I have a second?
I'll second. This is Jean.
Roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Gina,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
Maria? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to, don't go anywhere, Anita.
Right?
2022-23 first interim budget.
Thank you all for here. So tonight we're presenting the first interim report, and this is basically a reflection of our financials and actuals through October 30th of 2022. So we'll go over why we do this for our new board members, and some summary of changes, our multi-year projection, what the bottom line is, and what this means for our NUSD or authorizer, and then the next step in the budget cycle. So the next page. Here. Okay, so we are required to do 2 interim reports each year according to Ed Code. And so today is the first interim report, like I said, and this is usually the report that we have the most changes, because what we did was we built a budget in the spring of 2022 that you adopted mid-June. And then the state did their budget approval and stuff. And we guesstimated who we were gonna hire and things like that. So this is kind of a settle up on all of that. And then what's interesting for this year as well is we had a lot of surprises, good surprises, I could say, in the state's budget afterwards, when the state adopted their budget, and all the trailer bills that came out with that. So next slide. Okay, so this is the bird's eye view, a snapshot of our financial condition. So the first column is our adopted budget, where we were at in June, what you had approved, with our updated beginning balance. And then the changes for first interim. So you'll notice that our revenues went up quite a bit to $26 million. So that was a variance of over $307 million. Expenditures, again, went up by over $2.4 million to $24,966.38. So our revenues over expenditures increased by 1.2 million. So we're projecting a surplus of revenues over expenditures in this year only, as of this point in time, of 1.3 million. Added to our beginning fund balance, we're projecting a fund balance in June of 16.3 million on there. And so we will get into the details and what are those changes and stuff too on the next slide. Okay, so with this slide, green represents it's a positive increase to the fund balance, it went up. Any red would be it was a decrease to the fund balance. So in just looking at some of the changes that makes up the changes for that net increase, is that our on the revenue side, the LCFF, after the state adopted, we increased by 532,132. And that's because we had projected that the state was going to give us some extra augmentation money, but we only estimated about 3.29%. It came in at 6.7. So that's pretty much a difference. It also reflects some enrollment changes we did based on getting our CBEDS numbers as well. We went down, but that was a big chunk of it. We also got some hold harmless money for enrollment and EDA adjustments. And so that was to offset some of the 2021-22 decreases in attendance because of COVID and stuff too. So that's a one-time adjustment of over 406,266. We updated federal revenues and those increased by over 332,000. We got a slight increase in the federal special ed money, but the majority of that federal money was restricted categoricals from last year that got deferred into this year, so it's considered deferred revenue. We updated our state revenues on here. We added the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant, which was an increase of over 1.2 million. And that block grant, we will be able to spend over various years. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that towards the end of the slides. We also added about 50% of the learning recovery block grant that we've received money so far. That is over 623,000. The total allocation for that learning block grant is still expected to be another 1.2 million. So we only booked about 50% of that at this time. And we'll see where we're at with second interim. We also added back other state prior year deferred revenue, which is a lot of the CARES Act money, education effectiveness grant, some ADG money that we got last year of over 243,000. There were some minor state adjustments that decreased our revenues by about 12,645, and then offset by additional state's special education funds of over 238,777. Now with that, the state has been trying for the last couple of years to increase the amount they give per student towards special ed, and we belong to the Sacramento SELPA, and this year they passed on quite a bit of that money there. They also have, with the additional state money that they got as a SELPA, have given us set aside money that we can use for learning recovery and dispute resolution money and stuff too. So Addie's been working on that quite a bit. And then local revenues, we had more donations, and we received more Chinese classroom money of 138,512. So on the expenditure side, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that that one is, you'll see a lot of changes here because our expenditures increased by 2.4 million. So on the salary and benefit side, we increased costs of about 450,000 for the staff one-time bonuses, and the increased cost estimate for the salary schedule increases was 425,000. And then the increased costs for additional FTEs, actual salary placements, and reclassifications was 618,810. And so of that, that represents about a little over 8 FTEs that were added to the budget since we adopted the budget for various reasons, mainly related to those new categorical funds on that piece. And then supplies, materials, and services, it's almost $1 million, so 949.36, again related to adding back and spending those categorical funds for this year as well. And then capital outlay, we had a slight increase of 16,000 for the Black Rock fencing and expansion projects. We had budgeted some design money in this year's budget, and we just increased it at this time. So next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things before I get into the reserve slides, I wanted to, I added a few supplemental pages. I don't know if you guys saw those, noticed them or whatever in the format, but in the actual report, the board summary report, which is page 11 of the first interim report. I don't know what page it is in your packet. Down towards the bottom, we have the ending fund balance distribution where we have set aside operational reserves, program reserves. Do you guys see that on there? Okay. So I wanted to kind of point this out to you because I put in some additional supplemental documents to kind of drill down and provide more information on those restricted categoricals because we're getting so many of them. And so if you were to look at that page that I was just talking about on page 11, where under program reserves, you see restricted program donations projected as of June 30th of 2023 to be over $2 million, the $2,094,687. Well, on the new supplemental pages, if you turn to page 16, this report, this is something, the components of the fund balance, this is something that I've used for like 30 years for helping me balance out reports. But one of the things that it has is a list by those different programs. It tells you whether it's restricted with a U or with an R or unrestricted with a U. And it gives you those fund balances that make up that difference. So you can see that in the middle of the page where it says restricted, you'll see that $2,094,686 that ties to that financial summary. It also gives you contributions to the restricted program. So whether or not we're contributing to certain programs. And then if you wanted even more detail, on page 17, there's a list of all of those programs by resource, and you'll see the beginning balance, what the total revenues are projected, expenditures, and what the estimated fund balance. And again, the summary down below ties to total restricted projected to end at the 2.09 million. And again, I thought you might have a lot of questions. We're getting so many categoricals within the same resource that we're starting to use project years now to separate those out and stuff too. So it's additional information for you to see. The slides here, right here, we, according to our fiscal policy, we set aside 10% rounded of total expenditures, and our total reserves equals 65% of our first interim's total expenditures here. So this is a pie chart you're really familiar that's broken out by category. The percentages here of the pie chart are of the total 16 million fund balance. If we go to the next slide, I just included some other little pictures of looking at our fund balance. The top shows in blue our economic uncertainties. So again, the percentages are based on the 16 million of the total fund balance. And you can see that undistributed or unallocated is in red, 1%, and then the green is operational expenses. If you were to look at it based on operational reserves versus program reserves, according to our fiscal reserve policy, you'll see that the pie is split between 46% program reserves, 54% operational reserves. And of that operational reserves, it equals about 36% of our total expenditures in this particular budget. So we are meeting our reserves at this time. And next slide, please. For contributions, just wanted to include what we are contributing to some of the programs. These are programs that aren't really fully funded at this time, or we choose to put more money into them. So special education is a total of 1.7 million at this budget, and it's broken out by the different types of special ed programs, the federal, the state, the early mental health, and any special ed settlement services. Our routine restricted maintenance account, we're contributing 764,196. And then also for our A to G learning loss grant, we're contributing an extra 10,910. If you go to the next slide. I'm going to show you, this is a snapshot of our multi-year projection. So you can see we are not projecting, as usual, any additional increases to enrollment. So we kind of see, based on the decisions we made today, how they affect the two ongoing years on there. We do include the increased rates through the local control funding formula based on the dartboard projections for cost of living raises. So you'll see those that amount of money going out. We remove all of the federal and state one-time program categorical money. And then the expenditures, we are including step and level changes for our staff, increased pension costs, also for some of the operating expenses for supplies and services. We include an increase of based on the consumer price index factors that we have there. But you can see that we are showing a surplus for both of those out years and projecting to have an ending fund balance for 23-24 of 16.4 million, and then in 24-25, 16.6 million. If you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so bottom line, is that we continue to be fiscally sound with our current +2 subsequent years. We're projecting an ending fund balance of 16.3 million, which is 65% of our total expenditures. The following year, 16.4, which would be 70% of the expenditures, and 24-25, 16.7, which would be 68% of our expenditures. And then all of our projected cash balances are positive. We're projecting to end this year with 16.5 million, the following year 17.8, and then 24-25, 19.2. So this would be considered a positive certification in school district land and for our Utah Machina 5, our sponsor. Okay, so for next steps in the budget cycle, so one of the things I wanted to share with you is the new state program. So Learning Recovery Block Grant, for this one, there's no formal approval, plan approval needed. There's interim reports that are due, but the first one's not due until December 1st of 2024. And then we'll have another interim in December 1st of 2027 and a final report due in December of 2029. So currently the leadership team is working on plans to spread out this money over multiple years, and we will be sharing what we come up with as far as our plan. Because arts, music, and instructional block grant, this one is the one that we have the most flexibility for. We need to discuss and approve a plan, but right now there's no specific deadline listed yet for that. And we are, again, currently working on this one as well. That can be spent all the way through fiscal year 27, 28. The allocation for 22-23 expanded learning opportunity program, we do not have, there's no revised plans needed. If you remember last year, we had brought a plan for, so as long as we spend according to our original plan that was approved, there's no revisions needed at that time. Educator effectiveness, no plan revisions are needed if we spend within that plan that you approved back in December of 2021. There are annual requirements. They started this June, and our final report that we will have to show that we spent all the money isn't due until September of 2026. Next slide. Okay, so our next official interim report, which will be the second interim report, will be brought to you for approval in March of 2023. Joe and I will be going to the school services governor's January proposal for the 23-24 school year, and that will be in January. I believe it's the 18th though. And then we will also be starting to work on our LCAP as well as the adopted budget for 2023, starting as early as the month of January, all the way through May. And I'll open it up for any questions that you have.
One little question.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Chinese classroom. I don't know, I guess I missed this, but they generate funds. How do they generate funds?
How do they generate funds? Well, it is a grant, and we have to, so we work with Peggy Coe, who was formerly the coordinator of the program and stuff. We worked with Dr. Sun. Each year they present a budget to them, to the council. And this also includes budgets for the 5 participating schools that we are the regional center for. And then they go back and forth and negotiate through there and stuff too. And then at the end of the year, we have to show what we spent, and then we justify what we spent and stuff too. So some of the money that we got that was extra, last year we contributed to the Chinese classroom program by about $68,000. And so we reported everything that we spent to them, and we went back and forth. Joe was involved in this and stuff too. And they actually gave us an extra $46,000 towards what we overspent last year that they validated it was part of the true program, which was great. And then we also kind of, because we struggled back and forth, we kind of had a very conservative budget estimate in the adopted budget, and they gave us slightly, I want to say about 50,000 more. So about 90,000 came of that 138 came from the Chinese classroom funds. And then the others were donations, interest, things like that.
Just for a little context, we are in the process of phasing that program out. It's been an interesting program to navigate, but you know, what Anita was saying is it created a little bit of financial hardship for the school because we were kind of finding ourselves in a situation where we're having to front the program money and then a year later hoping that it was being sort of paid back, if you will. So we're, like I said, we're in the process of phasing that program out, especially with Peggy's departure. So Ting and I are working with our the regional group that we work with to see if another school wants to take on leadership or if we're just going to become independent members of that program.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, may I have a motion to approve 2022-23 first interim budget? Thank you, Doug. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maria. Roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes. Gina?
Yes.
Preeti?
Yes.
And Maria?
Yes.
Okay. Next up, Star Academy presentation.
Presentation. All right, hey everybody. So tonight I'm going to give an update for Star Academy. Starting off, this is our team this year, and our theme is Team Star. So that's why you have the jersey theme. Going along last year, I talked a lot about our journey that we were on. This year, looking in that bottom right-hand corner for 2022-23, it just notes some of the highlights that we're doing this year. So we added PE to our specials wheel. We adopted magnetic reading, which is a phonics program. We're continuing to build on our science units and kind of make a balance between inquiry and GLAD, which we use to create our science instruction, and then codifying our emergent bilingual instructional practices. All right. So in doing this, our team's focus for this year, we really want to focus on two areas. So academics, and then continuing to build our strong community back coming out of COVID. So for the academics, really working together to tap into each other's knowledge and refine our practices for student success. And really that is us building the staff's efficacy by sharing their knowledge and our practices, using standards-based instruction, and collectively learning together and finding those opportunities, which we do consistently each month. And then with our community, like I said, coming back out of COVID, we're trying to build back up our community. This year, we're able to have volunteers regularly on campus, which has been great. We have been doing community celebrations of different things this year and bringing back our events. One had to just be rescheduled. That was unfortunate, but we'll be having it back in January. So we're excited about our family game night that will be moved. And then just kind of a little update, fall data. We talked about this in a longer presentation. I think that was in October, but some of our highlights, the main ones in English language arts in our ELD time, working on co-teaching with our inclusive ed team and with our TOSA for ELs. Alyssa going in and working with our teachers in the classroom to really get the best practices and support our students. And another highlight in that area is our small group instruction that we're doing with our emergent bilingual students and supporting them. On the math end, we continue to have professional development in math discourse, which our teachers really appreciate and get a lot out of. And then this year, Courtney Selby, our TOSA for Math, is working with our 5th grade team and our middle school team to make the bridge vertically for the math between the curriculum we have at STAR over to the middle school programs. And we have our after school program, the ELOP, and Summer Boost too, that we're continuing to do. And then where are we going? Just a couple highlights here. Once again, PE we have put in, and Mr. Semple is leading that. Another new piece that we have for student support is our 5th grade government team that I think I mentioned it at one point. Ms. Hines, our social emotional counselor, and Francesca Donato, our associate principal, are leading that group. And you may have seen a cute little video posted today. I'm not sure if it made it to the NCS part of the webs or face. Oh, it did.
I did.
About the toy drive, and that's being due on Thursday. And it was really cute. And that was our student government group that we have. And so they do some fun things. Instructionally, this year we added a second planning day for every grade level, and they're looking for cross-curricular opportunities for learning for students. So trying to make sure that the students are applying different skills throughout different academic areas. Instructional materials, kind of talked about them, but one thing that we have new is in our science resources, we added Generation Genius in mystery science
to help build out those units that I was talking about on one of the earlier slides. And then community partnership. Once again, we're really excited to have volunteers back. There have been parents that now are regularly coming in each week, and we have other ones that come in when they can, which has been great and a very big help in the classroom. And I think that makes our environment what it is at STAR, and where our students are able to reach a higher potential, whether it's reading with parents and just having that extra time to help with stations and different activities they're doing. And then one other big highlight is we have our field trips back, and both 4th and 5th grade are going on their first overnight field trip since COVID, which is very exciting. And they're all going to Coloma, but everything is switched a little bit. So it'll be 2 classes per time, but we're really excited about that. They are one of the few programs that is kind of fully up and running, I would say, where we could make it work. So everybody's really, really excited about that. And then going into PE, I thought this was a highlight because we have worked many years about trying to get PE in at STAR, a formal PE in at STAR, where it's not just the teachers trying to figure out what to do, which is not necessarily the best of what it could be. And so Mr. Semple, our former 5th grade teacher, moved into this position, and students call him Coach Semple. And you can kind of see him there in the middle picture. He's kind of standing in the back with the jump rope. And really, it's kind of, I was asked, why PE? Why are we doing this? It really is to support our students, their mental health, and then their social emotional learning. Thinking about COVID, they were much more isolated at home, and we have seen a little bit of lack of problem solving skills. So this is helping the teamwork that they're doing, collaboration, that growth mindset, like, oh, I'm horrible at this, and trying to work on that. No, you can do it. You got to practice and keep going and keep pushing. And then sportsmanship too. And we've also seen, knock on wood, our recess time has been going a lot better, because before we had a lot of kids who either were involved in sports and were really good and had their rules, and then we had the ones that didn't play any sports or do any real physical stuff. And so it would bring interesting dynamics in from recess, and it seems like they're finding a better balance out now. So that has been a good response to having PE there. Next slide. For school-wide events, just some highlights in the pictures. So this was from Red Ribbon Week, and you can see the rotations. This was actually a rotation in obstacle course for PE in that upper picture. And then another one of our highlights that week was that we got 344 pairs of socks to donate to Loaves and Fishes. And these are students that are in student government in 5th grade. So those are the ones that also made the video. So that was another highlight. And then going on to other school events this year, we kind of broke it up into 2 different categories. So the first one being community building. One thing that I brought back this year was STAR Coffee and Cocoa with the principal or vice principal or whatever director comes. And really focusing on allowing the parents to bring in what's going well for them, what are challenges, and then us bringing in a topic that might be of interest to them. So we had MTSS, our process on that was this first one that we did. And then family game night is one of the events that we had to reschedule. And so that will be moved into January. It's actually in a switch with our STEAM night, now that I notice that the date is there. So under academic and physical enrichment, we have our STEAM night, but I would say the highlight out of this whole thing is the talent show that will be coming back later in May. And then Sammy Circuit is going to come back in March and actually be on campus, which was a huge event in the past too. So we're looking forward to that. And I think that's all. Any questions?
Sammy Circuit? I missed that. Sammy Circus?
Sammy Circuit. So I thought I had pictures on it. It's been a little while because he hasn't really been there. So he is an outside person. If you look up Sammy Circuit, he is a local, I would say, community member. He lives in Roseville, but he goes around to schools. He's been on the news, and he does, it's about motivation, mindset, and then physical activity and how it all comes together. And he comes in, he wrote a book. He's now written, I think, 2 books or 3. And he brings them in, he reads those to start off the year. He has an online platform that he did over COVID because he wasn't able to get into school. So we have that piece and our teachers regularly use that. And then he comes in and he does circuits. So the lights are off, it's dark in the gym, and then they have all these strobe lights and everything else going with different rotations. So there's like step aerobics, you're jumping, different things. They have jump ropes, wall sits, all kinds of stuff. And it's very upbeat and exciting, and the students really like it for that circuit part. But it's really about that positive body mindset. So I'm excited to have that. Any other questions?
Thank you, Amy.
It's you, Dr. Wood.
Actually, it's Dr. Ellis
Oh,
first.
it's Dr. Ellis.
She's talking about medication.
So the next thing on the agenda is the first read for board policy, the one on the medication. And it updates to have naloxone included in the policy. So our staff, we did receive our first
Shipment.
thank you for the shipment of naloxone. Naloxone is used as an anti-narcotic if someone has had a fentanyl overdose. It is not our expectation or desire to use it. However, it's better to be proactive than not, as fentanyl is the #1 cause of death for young people between the ages of 18 and 49. It is now overtaking car accidents and death by suicide. So that is what the policy updates. This is a first read, and we will bring it back for action item next month.
So you look up on the large television screen, you see the highlighted phrase that's up there. That's the only change from the policy. It's just adding that statement in that allows naloxone hydrochloride to be utilized, similar to how an EpiPen is utilized. So we'll be back next month for approval.
All right,
Now you get me.
now we give you Dr. Wood.
Get me for a couple things. So I'm gonna come on up there. So the first item in your packet for tonight, I got all my little notes here, is our enrollment report. So this is our enrollment as of the end of November. So this is kind of a time of year where we go into a little bit of a pause point because we're coming up on the end of the semester. So if you look at the numbers, you'll see basically Leading Edge is about where we budgeted. They're off by 1. They actually have a vacancy in 8th grade. We probably will not be filling it just because the Leading Edge program ends in 8th grade. So it's a little odd to bring a kid in 2 trimesters before the program ends. And then if we move down to PACT, PACT is at the 146, so kind of 2 above where they were at in first interim. And talking to Alicia today, she has a couple students coming in and a couple going out, so they'll probably end up around the same number at the beginning of the January, the second semester. PFA is right at 751. They actually have a vacancy in 8th grade right now. So I'm talking to Garrett and Linda this morning. They're in the process of kind of looking to see if they can offer that spot and get someone in. Star Academy is still holding at 600, and ECA as of today is actually at 102. And she has 6 students starting at the beginning of the next semester. So related to our current enrollment, it's also application season. We just finished our first week of applications. So a year ago, after the first week, we were at 475 applications. Our first week this year, we brought in 658 applications. So it's about a 25% increase. And those increases are across all 3 site-based programs. So Star, Leading Edge, and PFA, as well as Early College Academy is seeing an increase. So typically an application, you're looking at the last like 6 or 7 years, we're receiving between 1,300 and 1,600 applications. So we're about 650, 700 at this point, which is a really good start for the first week. Typically, we see a rush in the first week, then it gets really, really quiet as we go into the Christmas holidays and the start of the new year. And then we see it pick back up about the 2nd or 3rd week in January, right up until our application window ends, which is February 17th. So for anyone viewing from home, in order to have your application viewed in the lottery or considered in the lottery this year, it has to be completed by February 17th at 4 p.m. So the principals and the administrative team will continue to work on social media outreach. We actually have a 30th anniversary video that's getting finalized that we use for marketing, as well as some print materials. So that's coming up. So that was enrollment. The next one is Mutuous Facilities. I actually have some slides. Thank you. This is Zeba, isn't it? Isn't that her mouse? It's like, I see her, but I don't hear her, so it's very strange. So thank
She's
you,
a
Zeba.
master right now.
So typically for a facilities update, you don't normally have slides, but we actually have quite a bit going on. So I put together some slides for this evening. So what's happening by campus? So at Pact Academy, Pact is our building that we own and operate, and a little bit like, your own home at home, you're like, great, now I'm responsible for all of these things, right? So we did have some heating and ventilation system repairs earlier this year. We had some trouble with the air conditioner and we had some trouble with the heater. So we've been working on that. We also are working on some designs for our build out. So if you haven't been to our Pact building before, we actually occupy 3/4 of that building. There's a whole quarter of the building that's not yet built out, but we have it tentatively as a place that our business office, along with what we might consider sort of our district office functions. So my office, Addie's office, Laura's office, might move into that particular location. I'll talk about why in just a second. Then over at Star Academy, we have some landscape improvements that have been going on. So we've been actually working very closely with Natomas Unified, and they've been doing all sorts of exciting things like aerating the fields, putting seed on it, putting fertilizer on it, very important things that we appreciate them doing because we don't have the equipment necessarily to do that. So we've been doing a little bit of that along with putting in bark. We actually had, 10 yards of bark delivered and we need even more. So we'll be putting more bark in. And then we also did do a little bit of design work on a potential TK building that we could put in the front of campus. That's on hold at the moment. We applied for a charter schools facilities grant for that building. We did not receive it because frankly, it's just too new of a building and that particular grant program really prioritizes remodeling. So we're looking at some different options that we could look at. Realistically, that's probably a $6 or $7 million project. And to make it financially pencil out, we really need a grant or a bond or something along those lines that would pay for at least 50% of the project. So it's just kind of on hold for right now. But then, the main talk of tonight is really what's happening here on the Black Rock campus. So similar to Star Academy, we have a lot of field maintenance that's going on. The school district has removed dead trees. There are actually a bunch of roots that were growing that they took care of. They brought in, I don't even remember how many yards of topsoil. It was a big mountain of topsoil. I think it was 20 yards of topsoil, and did some filling in. And then over this winter break, they're going to be aerating the field similar to Star Academy and redoing the track and putting down new decomposed granite on the track to kind of help even it out, which we're really appreciative of them doing it. This campus is 22 years old and it's starting to show its age, especially in the field area, and they're helping us take care of some of those big landscaping issues. And then we have 2 projects that are going on, which I'm going to talk about in some upcoming slides. So we have some safety upgrades that we're in the process of designing and implementing. And then we have a new building. So looking ahead, so let's talk about our safety upgrade. So, board members in our one-on-one meetings, you guys have heard a little bit about this, but I kind of wanted to kind of put this on everyone's radar moving forward. So what are we trying to do? So the Black Rock campus was built in 2000. That was a time in the world when people really weren't thinking about, keeping strangers off campus or school shootings or that sort of thing. All of the campuses in Natomas that were built in the sort of like 98 to 2004 timeframe were actually really originally envisioned as community centers. So individuals could come walk their dog on campus after hours. And that's not really, the way schools operate today. So as this campus has been built, some, fences have been erected in all sorts of different ways. But as we were reviewing our security vulnerabilities, we realized there are 2 areas that we really needed to revisit. One is our admin building gate, which I'll talk about in just a second. And the other is that extending the fencing along the business office, along the end wing, all the way out to where our Spanish and French classrooms are and sort of incorporating that part into the campus. So this is, even though we are a charter school, this is school district property. So it means that we have to follow all of the traditional school district property rules in terms of doing some building on campus. So that meant that we've had to go through a more traditional design phase. We can't just call out a fencing guy and say, hey, can you take care of our fences? We actually have to go through a design process. We have to submit it to the Division of State Architect. So we went through the design and the DSA approval process kind of summer, fall, and into November. So where we're at right now is we're working with Natomas Unified on bidding the contract. So we actually have an approved design that we can send out to bid and getting some preliminary numbers. We're hoping that this construction can take place in basically summer 2023, so this coming summer. It's about a 4-week project. So Up by the admin building, there's actually some concrete work that has to be done along with putting in new fences and gates. And then along the end wing, it's all new fences. Cost estimate is approximately $350,000. So I'm also working with Natomas Unified right now to see, if that's something that we can share. The directive from the board and it fits along with, I think, everyone's personal belief in this room is that student staff safety comes first. So regardless of how much money it costs, we're going to make sure that it happens. But this is school district property, and so we're trying to work with them a little bit on what might be some financial ways we can work together. So next slide. So just to kind of give you a little visual of what's going to happen, this is our front gate right now. So actually, when you want to come, sign your kid out in the middle of the day, you actually come through the front gate and then walk up and make a left to go into the office. What we're actually going to do is move this gate back so that in this picture right here, where you now see a window and a door, there'll actually be two doors. And so you'll go in one door, and if you're okay to go on campus, you'll go out the other door onto campus, similar to how Star Academy is currently set up. Most of the time, the gate will actually just stay locked during the school day. But if we have an event on campus, it's open house, that sort of thing, then we can open that gate in to let people. But basically, it's just a matter of moving that gate back, which on the surface sounds really, really simple. But because this is a 22-year-old campus and we have all these glorious, beautiful trees around us, their glorious root system has done a lot of havoc to our concrete, and it is now out of ADA compliance. And so as part of the construction process, all of that concrete has to be ripped out and then laid so that it meets slope and grade and any changes in ADA requirements since 2000 when this campus was built. So that's the admin building. And then over by the end wing, same sort of idea. So this is our end wing right here. So those are the two foreign language classrooms down there and then our end wing. So effectively what we're just going to do is take this same sort of fencing that you see in the beginning or the foreground of the picture and basically put it all the way down so that when students have to actually go out to their classrooms or they're going over to the business office, they're actually not leaving the fenced area of campus. Currently, what we're doing is basically all of the fences are locked from the outside. You can always go, we have push bars on our gates, so you can always leave campus, but you can't come onto campus. So currently these gates are all locked except for at drop off and dismissal. And then what we also have going on is that the campus monitors will go on, unlock certain gates to let kids pass back and forth. And then currently, if they have to go to like the restroom or go up to the front office during during the class period, they actually go through the ECA building, sort of briefly check in at the ECA building, and then walk out onto campus. That's kind of how we're keeping it as secure as we can. But this is definitely, a really important upgrade that we want to do, which actually leads to the second project. So next slide. So actually, can you back up a slide for a second, Ziba? Thank you. So this end wing building right here, one of the big challenges with this particular building and the French and Spanish classroom at the end is from a safety standpoint, the doors are on the wrong side of the building. The doors really should be on the field side of the building. And then these are just basically windows on the back end. And so that's kind of one problem that we've navigated. This building also, this end wing building, when it was originally installed about 18 years ago, to make a long convoluted story short, I'm gonna say it wasn't installed properly. There's nothing structurally wrong with the building, but there's some paperwork that wasn't done properly. So a number of years ago, that sort of led us on a little bit of a conversation of, what do we do with these buildings? I mean, first of all, the doors are kind of on the wrong side from a security and safety standpoint, but also, what do we actually need? So next slide, please. So earlier this year, we worked with an architect to really start thinking about what parts of our campus have buildable footprints. So we have some buildings, such as this building that you're in right now, that in theory we could tear down and replace with another building, but it's actually pretty expensive to do because this was a building that was built intended for this particular campus. But we do have some sections of campus where we have buildings that are portables or modular buildings. They really weren't intended, like this building, to be there forever and ever. They were intended to be there for a time period of 20 to 25 years. And so our three buildable spaces are the J wing. This little building right here, it says E5, E6. It's currently a middle school science lab and a middle school English classroom. And then the N wing. And so we started thinking a little bit about, what are our campus needs on this campus? Well, first, since we've taken on special education as our own, and we've become our own LEA for special education, we have an increased need for more inclusive education classrooms. We also have an increased need for inclusive education offices. Currently, our inclusive education staff are kind of doing a little bit of hoteling and sharing desks and that sort of thing. We don't have a dedicated Mandarin classroom. Currently, our Mandarin classroom and our ASB/student government share a room. And those happen to be two disciplines with a lot of extra stuff. So when you go in that room, it's cool, but there's like a dragon falling out of a cabinet and all this ASB stuff going on. We also, we have a really active theater department on this campus, but the classrooms that those teachers are in are actually very small. And so they have to do quite a bit of theater instruction outdoors. So they often use the amphitheater and other places. So having some theater classrooms. Right now we have Leading Edge kind of squished in the back of campus right here. I'm just going to tell you that's a really small space for 271 kids, and all the administrators in the room are shaking their heads because we've been back there. So we've been kind of thinking about, is there a way, we can build like a leading edge community space? And then can we also reorient our campus a little bit? So maybe like all the middle school classrooms at PFA are together and all the high school classrooms are together. Right now, we kind of have a situation just, over years of people moving, coming and going that, you might have a 6th grade classroom right next to an 11th grade classroom. And there's a lot of children walking back and forth across campus. I know if little Michael Wood is ever tardy, if I see it show up on my phone, I can guarantee he was going from dance on the far end of campus to Spanish on the complete opposite end of campus, and his little legs are just not going to take him there fast enough, right? So kind of thinking about how can we reorient things. I mentioned that we need to remove the N building long-term and then doing some safety reorienting. So we did submit this design that you see up here on the screen for something called a Charter Schools Facilities Grant application. The estimate is that this is about a $30 million project to do all 3 of the buildings. And the grant that we received actually funded that project by 50%. So we received 15 of the 30 million. Plus we also qualified for a $5 million loan. So we have about 20 million of a $30 million project sort of taken care of. What we will have to do as a board is think a little bit about what do we want to do with the other 10 million? Is that something that we're going to try to raise within or use some of our reserves for? Is that something that we can work with Natomas Unified School District or another entity looking at how we're going to fund that? So next slide, please. So where we're at in terms of a timeline is that grant was approved. We really have until October 2026 to complete this project. We can also adjust this project. Like if we only want to do this N wing because it's all we can really afford, and we don't really want to do this J wing, that's something that we can look at. So what we're doing right now is we're starting to enter the design phase. This picture that you see up here right now is literally all of the design that we have. So we actually need to go to a new phase of the design process where we're working with an architect to really identify, this design right here. I left out an important piece. The stacking orange buildings right here. We're looking at replacing the N wing with a 2-story building. So this would actually allow us to have those additional classrooms. We're also starting to think, could this 2-story N wing be sort of our leading edge space? And one idea that was shared with me by the district facilities director is they have another campus that they're working on a similar building, where with the way these projects are now, we actually also have to have 20% of that building's energy has to be generated on site. So it'll have to have photovoltaic panels. So what they've been doing is putting like a large awning out in front of the building. So in the case of this could maybe become our leading edge kind of courtyard space. So we're going to be working with an architect to kind of try to design that out a little bit. Also identifying, what type of building. Is this going to be a stick-built building where, the carpenters are really coming out cutting lumber? Probably not, because that's actually the most expensive way to go. More than likely, it'll be a modular building where it's built in a factory and then it's brought out to our site and then erected. And then we'll also be in the process of sort of establishing like a timeline. So hypothetically, we have to, if we're going to replace the N wing, we have to find a home for our Spanish classroom, a home for our French classroom, a home for the business office, a home for the classroom that ECA uses in those spaces. And so kind of thinking through that. So in terms of some potential timelines, we might be looking at a phase 1, largely being this N wing construction, maybe summer 2024 or summer 2025. And then a phase 2, maybe being this J wing construction of summer 2025 or 2026. So these are all pieces that I'll be working on with our architects and Charlie and Anita, as well as the district facilities director, and kind of trying to figure out, what's our capability, what can we do here? But it's exciting. I mean, we should consider ourselves really fortunate that we received this grant. The BlackRock Campus project was actually the #1 awarded project throughout the state when we went through this process. So that really just comes from us doing a good job of establishing our need. You know, we're on a 22-year-old campus that needs some upgrades. We've gone on our own for special education, our own LEA, and so we need additional resources for that. And we just need to kind of, think about providing a modern campus for our students. Next screen, or next slide, I should say. So that's it. Any questions I can answer about facilities? No? All right. Last one, it's also technically me, sorry. Your 700 forms are coming. Ziva will be back in January, and she will remind us regularly that your 700 forms are coming. But it is a reflection of the 2022 calendar year. So as you're, getting your taxes together and all that sort of fun thing that we all get to do towards the end of December and into January, just be keeping in mind that you'll have your annual 700 form that you'll need to complete.
Mm-hmm. Ziva's found her way on our agenda yet again, sending an agent. All right. Executive director comments?
Most things I already mentioned. Application season's open. Earlier tonight, you heard about all the amazing things our students have been doing. The canned food drive, the toy drive, the change wars. It's been pretty amazing. But just, right around the corner, starting on Monday, is winter break. I think everyone's very excited about that. Addie clapped out loud even though she thought it was going on in her mind. But she's thinking what we're all thinking a little bit. But yeah, so we're on winter break the next 2 weeks, and then classes will resume for students on January 3rd. The other exciting thing that we have when we come back is earlier tonight it was mentioned, we did a night at the King's game where our students went and performed. The next sort of NAIF NCS night is at Frozen. We're going to see Frozen the musical at the Save Credit Union. And I actually have lost track of how many people we have going because Kathy keeps having to ask for more tickets. So we're taking a big group. So we'll be there on January 7th. Those are my little updates.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wood. Any board of director comments? Everybody.
Great meeting.
Jennifer,
Actually, I do have one.
I think Gina has a comment on.
Oh, Gina.
No, go ahead, Jennifer. I'll go after you. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to see if, maybe next meeting or so, if we could start talking about the vaccination schedule for PACT.
Sure.
Okay.
So bringing up, bringing back the immunization policy for the school?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, great. Okay, as many of you all know, we had some sadness a couple of weeks ago where we lost a very beloved member of the NCS community. Francisco Ortega, our lead custodian at Star Academy, passed away. On behalf of the board, I want to extend condolences to the Ortega family. Please keep them all in your thoughts. Absolutely. Future board agenda items other than what Gina's brought up? Okay, on that note, let's adjourn this meeting 7:57. Happy holidays. Happy break, Dr. Ellis.
You don't even understand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Ziva. Bye, Ziva. We miss you.
Miss you.